During a recent interview, and with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) summit on the horizon, Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi was asked about Tehran's preparations for the high-level gathering and the expectations Iran holds for its outcomes amid ongoing regional tensions. In a direct and pointed statement, Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi expressed deep appreciation to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) and its member states for their unified condemnation of recent military actions taken by Israel and the United States against Iran, particularly the attacks targeting Iranian nuclear facilities. Speaking candidly ahead of the upcoming SCO summit, Araghchi emphasized that these strikes represent not only a clear act of aggression, but a grave breach of international law and the United Nations Charter. Aggression on its own is illegal, he said. But targeting nuclear facilities goes even further. It's a flagrant, unforgivable violation. Such attacks are strictly prohibited under international law, and for good reason. They pose serious environmental and human risks that could affect millions. The foreign minister highlighted the significance of solidarity shown by SCO countries, especially China, for their firm stance and public support of Iran. He noted Beijing's strong condemnation and its message of condolence to the families of civilian victims, including women and children, as meaningful signs of regional alignment. Looking ahead, Araghchi made clear that Iran expects the upcoming SCO summit to offer not just symbolic gestures, but concrete political support for Iran in the face of what it describes as unprovoked aggression by Israel. Our expectation is full and clear support at the political level, he said, underscoring the importance of international backing as tensions continue to rise. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi was asked that, what is essential to achieve a real and sustainable ceasefire? He clarified Tehran's official position regarding the recent escalation with Israel, rejecting any characterization of the situation as a conflict. This is not a conflict, Araghchi said. It is a clear and unprovoked act of aggression by the Israeli regime against the Islamic Republic of Iran. According to Araghchi, Iran was left with no choice but to invoke its legitimate right to self-defense. He stated that Iranian forces acted decisively to protect the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We responded courageously. Our actions were defensive, not offensive, and we succeeded in halting the aggression. The other side then asked for an unconditional ceasefire, which we accepted. He warned, however, that the ceasefire remains extremely fragile. Israel has a history of violating ceasefires. Their record speaks for itself. That's why we remain vigilant and fully prepared should the truce be broken, he said. While emphasizing that Iran has no interest in prolonging hostilities, Araghchi made it clear that Tehran is ready for any eventuality. We did not start this war. We did not want it. But we were prepared, and we remain prepared. Our preference is peace, but not at the expense of our security. When asked whether Iran's cooperation with the IAEA has ceased or shifted, and what is Iran's stance on its nuclear program at the current time, and how is the evaluation of the nuclear facilities progressing, Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi criticized the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, for what he described as its politicized handling of Iran's nuclear dossier, while reaffirming Tehran's commitment to peaceful nuclear cooperation under international law. Araghchi stated bluntly, "We believe the agency played a negative role in this matter," referring to a recent IAEA report on Iran's nuclear program. He accused the agency of attempting to persuade its board of governors that Iran's nuclear activities raised concern, even though such claims have been addressed and resolved under the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA. The board of governors had already reviewed and closed the so-called PMD, Possible Military Dimensions, file. Reopening it now is clearly politically motivated and done under pressure from certain countries, he said. The minister contended that this IAEA report ultimately became the basis for a resolution that was exploited as a pretext for attacks against Iran by both Israel and the United States. "This is our assessment of the agency's actions," he added. Despite this, Araghchi reiterated that Iran remains fully committed to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, and its associated safeguard agreements. However, he noted a significant shift. "Our cooperation with the IAEA has not ended. but it will now be overseen and managed through the Supreme National Security Council and handled on a case-by-case basis. He highlighted safety and logistical concerns for future inspections, especially at nuclear sites that were recently targeted in attacks. Inspecting damaged facilities is not the same as visiting operational ones. We must ensure the safety of the inspectors themselves, considering the risks of radiation and unexploded ordnance that remain on site, he warned. In conclusion, Araghchi emphasized that Iran's cooperation with the IAEA will continue, but through more controlled and secure mechanisms. This is not about avoiding transparency, he stated. It is about safeguarding our national security and the lives of international inspectors. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi was asked a critical question regarding the future of diplomacy with Washington. "You recently said Iran still needs more time to decide about the possibility of restarting the nuclear talks with the United States. What does Iran need to consider?" Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi offered candid reflections on the future of Iran-US nuclear diplomacy, expressing Tehran's skepticism and disappointment in the wake of previous agreements. Speaking as a senior diplomat and former nuclear negotiator, Araghchi emphasized that Iran is not yet convinced there is real determination on the part of the United States to resolve the issue. He stressed that any return to talks must be based on sincerity and a genuine intention to reach a win-win outcome, not tactical gestures. "Our nuclear program is entirely peaceful, and we are 100% confident in that," Araghchi said. "We've always been willing to prove this to the world, but that trust can only be built through negotiations." Recalling the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, he noted, "We sat down with the P5+1 countries, negotiated seriously, and concluded an agreement. The world recognized it as a diplomatic breakthrough. It was a celebration of dialogue and compromise." However, the turning point, according to Araghchi, came when the United States unilaterally withdrew from the deal. That withdrawal was not just a political decision, it destroyed trust, he said. "Everything we are witnessing today stems from that decision. It derailed years of progress and left the region less stable." While Araghchi reaffirmed Iran's continued commitment to the original agreement, he made clear that Tehran would not re-enter talks without guarantees. If diplomacy is to work again, the foundation must be respect, mutual benefit, and above all, reliability. During the exclusive interview, the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi was asked of a key question of a possible return to a negotiated nuclear deal. The Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi addressed the possibility of reviving negotiations over Iran's nuclear program, laying out clear conditions for any future diplomatic engagement with the United States. Responding to whether a return to talks was feasible, Araghchi affirmed that the path to negotiation remains open, but only under strict conditions. "Yes, I believe a return to negotiations is possible," he said. "But it requires serious and genuine political will from the United States. They must clearly abandon the notion of a military solution." He pointed to the recent attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities, acts Iran blames on Israel and implicitly supported by Washington, as proof that military options are both reckless and ineffective. "These attacks have demonstrated beyond doubt that there is no military solution to our nuclear program," Araghchi said. "The only viable path forward is a diplomatic one." However, he emphasized that Iran would not re-enter talks simply for appearances. "We are ready to return to the negotiating table," he continued, "but only if the U.S. puts aside its military posture and takes responsibility for the damage it has caused, including the consequences of sanctions and direct aggression. Only then can we consider re-engaging in a constructive and balanced diplomatic process."